It's a little after 12:30. I'm gonna start the meeting live from the beautiful Jonas Center in Novato, California. KRCN is on the air and presents the Rotary Club of Novato Meeting Hour. Welcome, everybody. Okay, I don't see any. So we've got a special report today from our San Marin Interact team, and Katie Chase, who's co-chair of our Youth Services Committee, has been our liaison with San Marin Interactors for the last couple of years at least. And this report is kind of a question and answer. We have three members of San Marin Interact with us today: Stefania Bitten, Medela Tai, and Anna Kilgruff. So Katie, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And it's really exciting to have the opportunity to share with our club what our Interact Club is doing. I am always blown away at how giving these students are and how engaged they are. So welcome, ladies. I have the list of questions that I gave you, and we're just going to kind of go through them. And if you each want to answer or just hand it off to each other, that'll work great. So starting out, can you just tell us your name, your year in school, and then how you're engaged with Interact?
Hi, I am Medela Tai. I'm a junior at San Marin, and I'm the co-president of Interact Club.
Also, and then I'm co-president with Maddie.
Hi, my name is Stefania Baton. I'm a junior at San Marin, and I am the secretary of Interact Club.
And hi, I'm Amanda. I'm the current president of Interact Club. So Medela and Anna are going to be taking over as presidents next year, and I'm a senior.
So a little background on that. We have the students decided about 2 years ago to do their officer changes on an annual calendar instead of with the school calendar. That way there's no, losing track of things over the summer. You have a consistent president throughout the summer, so things stay consistent and on track. So next question for you guys is, can you give us an overview of the purpose of your club and how many members you currently have?
Yeah, so the purpose of Interact Club is for students all throughout campus to get to know each other, not only at school, but like Interact Club is a national thing. So we can be meeting people all throughout the country, stuff like that. So it's a great way for especially freshmen right now who have not had that experience on campus to just meet new people that maybe aren't in their classes, stuff like that. So our club is trying to meet around once every other week, and there are, I'd say, 75 students in our club, although we haven't been able to do in-person meetings, which is where a lot of people come in. So for our Zoom meetings that we have, like our virtual meetings, there's like 35 to 40 people that come, which I think is still a great turnout despite being in a pandemic. But yeah, that's what our club does.
And what kind of projects has the San Marin Interact Club taken
on? Besides any recommendations we get from you, any like volunteer opportunities that you guys help us with, we're currently working on a tutoring project. I'm working with Ms. Vogel to connect some of our members, like to find tutors among our members for some of her chemistry students. So that's where we're going to start off. And if that's successful, then I'll keep asking more teachers if they're interested in this.
And how has the pandemic impacted your fundraising and the projects that you guys have chosen to work on?
So we haven't been able to do as many projects as we would have liked because of the pandemic, but we have done a lot more volunteer opportunities recently. But we have also not been having to do a lot of things that cause like expenditures. We haven't been having to spend money as often, so we still have a good sum of money for the club.
She's a good speaker.
And you already mentioned that you've been meeting virtually. So how has that worked for the club and keeping everybody connected?
Honestly, meeting virtually has been a little hard. As with school, nobody really wants to talk during meetings. So we've been trying to do our best, but it's mainly like the officers that are trying to engage people. Usually when we're doing in-person meetings in the classroom, we have food and drinks available for people that gets more people to come to those meetings. And it's very different online than it is in person. I think it's just that people are a little bit afraid to talk in front of people, especially over Zoom, and they don't want to like interrupt somebody, and it's hard to know when somebody's about to talk, stuff like that. So although a lot of people don't talk, like members don't talk during the actual meeting, I always leave it open for people to stay afterward if they have any comments, questions, anything like that for me or any of the officers. So a lot of people do end up doing that because it is a smaller group of about like 10 to 15 people instead of the like 40 that usually come onto the calls. So then people are more apt to say stuff, which I think is great. So that's definitely a start, but we're still working on trying to get more people comfortable with each other with talking on Zoom, stuff like that, because we're still figuring it all out.
We've also recently just run into a few more, it's been a little bit more challenging to find times to meet because of the new hybrid system where lunch isn't an option because half of our students are going to be either coming home from being in person from school, and there's other clubs. So we're trying to find a good time to meet, but it's proven a little difficult with all these changes.
And what do you think the Interact strengths are? What are things that you feel like your club does really well? And then following up on that, what do you think some opportunities are? Do you think you can better your club in any way?
I think you've seen through the pandemic just how resilient Interact Club is. We transitioned powers, I believe, a week before everything shut down. And so the fact that we were able to get even a club running this year, I feel is pretty amazing because pretty much everything was new and different. So having to just the resilience to keep looking for volunteer opportunities and trying to keep everyone safe while doing so, I think demonstrates just how passionate we are for the community that we're building and how we want to just benefit our club members and just the Novato area.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that. So when I first became president, like when we were switching the powers last year, I was training for maybe 3 days before the COVID pandemic hit. So it was all just a lot at one time. So it was hard to get started at the beginning of the semester and get word out there that our club is still happening this year, because a lot of the clubs that were happening last year and in previous years did not continue this year because of this pandemic. So I think it was really great that word was able to spread, because there was only a few members in the very beginning. Once we all made club videos, stuff like that, made people aware that we were still here, that we're still doing volunteer opportunities, trying to help out the community and people around campus as much as possible. So the fact that there's that much positive word coming out about us and that so many more people are able to join just shows how great of a club we are and that we've worked hard to become. And then another thing is that a lot of the people in our club are not a part of this club and don't volunteer to get service hours, because a lot of people at our school, they volunteer just to get the service hours. They want their 40 hours to graduate, all that stuff. But the people that are part of our club work hard so that they can benefit the community, which I think is really great. So people go to the beach to do their beach cleanups, volunteer at the car wash, stuff like that, just to like help and see other like smiling faces and see how they're brightening other people's days, not just to get those hours, which I think is really great.
Awesome. It is. It's really a committed group of students, which is pretty incredible to see in our youth. So what do you think it takes to be a really strong Interact club?
I feel that it takes people actually wanting to do the work, like Amanda was saying, because there's a lot of people who just do the work just to get the credit and to be able to say that they did. But for the people that are in our club, I would like to say that a majority of them are there for the right reasons and want to actually be there to be able to benefit and improve our community. So I feel like to be a good club, we have to be those types of people who are leading the group, because by leading by demonstration, we can show them that it's more than just getting volunteer hours. And then we can also just benefit the community more.
I'd like to add on just a little bit. I think a huge part of what makes us great is our communication. As Amanda was saying earlier, we've managed to get through the pandemic through just keeping up communication. First, a good group of officers that can communicate outside of meetings to pitch ideas and to get things rolling, and then keeping up with our members in order to keep us strong.
I think also just seen through the Rotary held events like FLC and SLC, you see just the different Interact clubs and how they're all filled with leaders and just a large sense of community. And even though everyone is so strong in their like belief in their self and their own capabilities, they all can work together to use those strengths and do all those benefits. So like in our tutoring thing, Maddie, who reached out to a teacher, and now we can reach out to our club and create a new environment that can benefit people. And that was with teamwork and community building and just taking initiative, which I think our club has.
And we have really enjoyed working together, involving Interact with our Rotary Club of Novato projects. Do you guys have any ideas or how we can continue that?
Right now, we've just been focusing more on projects in school, but if you guys have any like projects that you need help getting started or you need people, because we are all very busy, but we like to try and make things happen. But it's definitely, if you guys need manpower, we have a remind with a lot of people who are willing to help. But yeah, right now we've just been focusing on like smaller projects in school that we can just make happen because they're much simpler. Since everything's really crazy right now, we're trying to switch back to full in person. We've been taking it slow, but we're willing to help if you guys need manpower.
Yeah, the car wash that we helped you guys with, I thought that was a great turnout. We got a lot of money from that. So doing more things like that would be very beneficial. So like last year, for example, we did like the pie auction, and during like Thanksgiving time, we did the suits and sneakers week, which is like the 3-point challenge where the Novato High, like our rivals for San Marin, people like put in money for who they think is going to win, how many 3 points that each player is going to make. And all of that money goes to the American Cancer Society. And then like the Palencia Feed in February, and then like the guest speakers for Be to Live, all of that stuff that's happened like last year, a lot of that was not could not happen this year because of the pandemic. So in terms of next year, right now we're just trying to get everything prepared and set up for next year. We are trying to do a lot of volunteer opportunities around school right now, and a lot of the stuff we have not been able to do just because of the circumstances, but we would really like to continue working with you guys to make those things happen for next year. Although we haven't been able to do these things, we've done, like this year, we've done the car wash. People were like handing out and hanging up flyers to advertise for the car wash around downtown area. People were selling tickets for the car wash. We did the Los Robles mobile home park firewise cleanup, where the pulling weeds and the raking leaves and all that stuff. We did the hanging at the lights on the trees on Grant Avenue. We did the bricklaying at the city hall. We provided the foods and drinks. And then we also did the technology volunteer program with the mentoring, which has been great so far. And then we also, this past week, Anna reached out and we did the virtual conference that was like live streaming from Russia about peace, international relations, and more from like the Interact Club as a whole. And then just like Medela said, we're doing the tutoring for chemistry. So although we're not doing these like the bigger events that we normally do in the past, we're still trying to keep up with the smaller things, but we hope to keep up with the smaller things next year and keep doing the bigger projects as well.
I think also additionally to that, a partnership that we wanted to make last year, but with everything happening, we were unable to follow through with, is just so many members of Rotary are so knowledgeable in certain fields that our Interact students may want to pursue. And so I think in future years, strengthening those communications so that if someone who does have hopes to go into a certain career pathway can reach out and feel comfortable reaching out to any member of Rotary who is currently in that career, I think that could be really beneficial to our club and just high school students who are trying to figure out where they're going to end up in life.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for attending. Chris, I think we're at time, so I'm going to end it here and just thank you for making time in your busy days to attend our meeting and fill us in on what you're doing. Thank you.
Okay. Once again, thanks, Katie, for organizing and heading this up for our club. And thank you, ladies, for all the work that you do. We're going to move into our speaker time now. So our speaker today is Drew McIntyre, who is the general manager of the NorthMarin Water District. Drew has worked in the water industry for over 35 years, both in public and private sector. He's a registered civil engineer and a certified water and wastewater treatment operator. He's been with NorthMarin Water District for the last 23 years, initially as chief engineer, and has been general manager since 2017. He and his wife have lived in Novato for nearly 30 years, raising 2 daughters in the Novato School District. He's a member and past president of Novato Sunrise Rotary Club, and all-around great guy. It's a pretty short introduction, but Novato and its water supply is in good hands with Drew McIntyre. So Drew, why don't you take it away? Yeah,
Happening.
now it's up.
Okay, good. Sorry about
Excellent.
that.
Looks good.
All right, you can see that screen,
Yep. We're good.
and you can see the next one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all right, I'm on a roll now. So as I was saying, we have 3 different service areas. The Novato, I'm not going to be talking about West Marin. We provide water service out in the Point Reyes Inverness Park area, and I will not be talking about our sewer service up in Oceana Marin. So let's just go straight to rainfall. I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anyone that we are in very dry year conditions. as you can see here in this chart of cumulative rainfall since 1916. Red is the data that we have this year, and you can see it's the lowest amount of rainfall on record since 1916. So it definitely has our attention. And if we look at monthly precipitation, if you just look at here in a month to month basis, if you look at the average that we experience here at Stafford Lake rainfall in blue, and then look and see what we've realized here this winter year, you can see you know, the overall dry conditions. Interesting to note that January was a okay month, but you can see December was seriously lacking, as well as February and March. You know, we do, so I want to qualify this, is that I haven't given up all hope. We do get some rain in April, not a lot, but I'm still hoping that we will get some rain, but it's not going to be enough to significantly deviate from our dry year conditions. So what does that mean for Stafford Lake elevation? This is the red line is the current year elevation. You can see it's essentially been flatlined since November. I'm going to talk about this increase that's happened since the middle of February later. But that flatlining, you can see the rain that we have received over the months has really not been enough to saturate the ground and actually create any runoff into Stafford Lake. So we haven't seen any increase in storage in Stafford Lake, except what's been happening since middle of February, and that's because we are back feeding, and I'll talk about that in a few more minutes. So Stafford Lake is our local supply. Roughly around, you know, historically it's been averaging around 20% of our local supply, but we get most of our water, we import it from Sonoma County Water Agency. And I know this is a busy slide. Can you see my cursor if I move it around?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a busy slide, but again, you know, here's Santa Rosa. We're down here in Novato. It shows all the Sonoma County Water Agency's infrastructure, and it shows Russian River alignment. And so when I talk about Lake Sonoma, it's this lake up here in Sonoma County, and then another Lake Mendocino is the second reservoir up in Mendocino County. So those are the two reservoirs you'll hear me talking about some more that provide essentially supply in the Russian River that we rely on, and most predominantly we rely on Lake Sonoma levels. So what do those two levels look like? You already have seen the dire situation in Stafford Lake. So just going further north in Mendocino, the driest year conditions, you know, over the last few decades was in 2014. The green line, and you can see now here in our 2021 for Lake Mendocino levels that it's below the worst case level in 2014, and unless there's, you know, some miracle rainfall, will not get up to or achieve what we had in 2014. So it'll be a new baseline year for lowest levels in Lake Mendocino. This lake is important, but for the contractors who get water from Sonoma County Water Agency, it's our supply is even more important when you look at Lake Sonoma. And if you look at Lake Sonoma, this typical is a multi-year reservoir that is of significant importance to the water contractors that we're one of. And if you look here, in terms of historical water supply conditions, you can see now that we're breaking new records, and it's the lowest level in Lake Sonoma essentially since filling. So Another thing I'd like to point out is if this level continues to drop down and reach 100,000 acre feet, then there's some additional requirements that'll kick in and will end up having more further mandatory rationing to all the water contractors should it reach down to that level. So that's of key importance to the water agency and the contractors as we're continuing to assess water supply conditions. So just going back again on, just the Novato water service, we serve a little bit over 61,000 customers. Last year, we had a demand of about 2.6 million gallons. Back in 2013, it was 3.2 million gallons. So our customers have continued to do a really good job using water efficiently, and the water use since 2013 has decreased 20%. But in a dry year that we're experiencing now, just that savings alone is not going to be enough. We're going to need to do more. So what our challenges this year, as I've highlighted, we have limited Stafford Lake supply, and I've already identified our limited supply situations along the Russian River from Sonoma County Water Agency. So earlier this winter, we started pushing out a winter ad campaign. We normally don't do that in normal wet years, but this being a dry year, we started pushing out information to our customers about it, dry year conditions, and essentially encouraging ways to save water and encourage or utilize our water conservation program and rebates and what have you. Most recently in March, our board did approve an emergency water conservation ordinance. That ordinance essentially declared a prohibition on the waste of water. It was important for us to go out with this emergency water conservation ordinance early. We do not yet know what the actual restriction levels will be because we're still working with Sonoma County Water Agency. So we do expect to come back to the board with an update to the ordinance that'll have actual conservation level triggers. We've done this about 5 times in the last 15 to 20 years at different levels of conservation, from 15 to 25%, and that's what's being finalized right now, waiting until kind of early April and waiting especially for latest information from Sonoma County Water Agency. So if we go into these summer water use prohibitions, which I expect that we will, just some typical prohibitions that folks, if you've this is similar to what you've experienced in the past. I'm just highlighting some of the typical prohibitions. Obviously no gutter flooding, wasting of water flowing down the streets, failure to fix leaks. We have a prohibition on refilling swimming pools. It would probably be similar to previous years, effective July 1. Prohibition on washing down exterior paved areas. Washing vehicles, boats, trailers, etc., without a shutoff nozzle, and then some degree of restrictions on overhead sprinkler irrigation. Keep in mind that our primary focus on these summer water use prohibitions is really obviously with outdoor irrigation. Our outdoor demands essentially result in more than half of our winter demand. So if we can focus on the outdoor summer demands, that'll really get us where we need to be. So how are we managing water supply? We have the capability, which is very beneficial, to be able to take Sonoma County Water Agency surplus water in the winter months, which we started doing. Our board approved doing that in middle of February. And so we're now actually filling Stafford Lake at a rate of about 5 million gallons per day to get some storage in there that we can turn around and then use this summer. Again, we have a comprehensive water conservation program with rebates that's been going on for decades. Over the last 10 to 15 years, we've had our largest capital improvement projects ever in the district. We spent over $30 million to expand recycled water. That's a drought-proof supply, primarily for large landscape irrigation and drive-through car washes. More recently, if you're not aware, we've spent $6 million to convert all of the water meters. They were mechanical meters that were read every 2 months to electronic read meters. And so now that information is real-time data in intervals that allow communication with our customers on a day-to-day basis on water use. Very few agencies have 100% of their meters electronic meter conversion. So very, very proud of the board, and former general manager Christy Gabriel should be proud as well in leading that effort. And then finally, in 2020, we embarked on financing with our other retail water contractors that purchase water from Sonoma County Water Agency, and a regional water supply resiliency study to look at just the entire system and how we can expand and become more resilient during dry years that we do experience and we will continue to experience. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I showed you this graph before. I just want to talk about the backfeeding again, and you can see my cursor. This increase here is a direct result of us being able to backfeed water into Stafford Lake, and I expect that we will continue to do that at least through the end of April, and maybe even into early May, and try to get up at least to this lower shaded level, which is the lowest level that we've had historically in the dam. Here's our history on recycled water. We didn't just start this recently. We've been working on it since 1991. Now in 2021, we have over 90 customers. This is a graph that kind of just shows our variability in Stafford Lake production from any given year. And it's 100% based upon what kind of rainfall we have. Here's our production and recycled water down in purple. That's starting to continue to increase. It doesn't vary year to year by weather. It's a constant supply, as I mentioned before. There's plenty of wastewater being produced, so we're continuing to try to expand that system. This pie chart shows now that Russian River supply is about 66% of our total portfolio. 15 to 20 years ago, there was 80%. So and recycled water was down very small percentage. So you can see we're doing what we can to try to expand our local portfolio of water supply, and recycled water is playing a big role. And that is in conjunction with our partners. I don't want to forget to mention Las Colinas Valley Sanitary District, that we get water for our southern service area, primarily Hamilton, and Novato Sanitary District for our north and central service area. This is just some data on our electronic meter conversion system. I mentioned the total project costs are about $6 million. We've done over 20,000 meters, 97% of our system. We have about 6,300 people registered on accounts. I'd like to encourage folks to sign up and register if you have not yet done so, and take advantage of that information that's readily available on a daily basis, instead of in the past, we might reach out to you once every 2 months when we read the meter and we see that there's a problem. So how does this new system work? If you've registered, you can get this. Here's an example of a potential leak that occurred, and what you would have that would come to your smartphone or your computer. And these sorts of alerts give you real-time information, and it's really important to not only help you save water as a customer and save cost, but also for the water district to make sure we're using water as efficiently as possible. And then finally, I just want to talk about the Regional Water Supply Resiliency Study. I realize you can't see It's a pretty busy slide here. On the right-hand side, it's a bunch of lines and squares and triangles. That's essentially the entire grid of the network where water is coming from Sonoma County Water Agency, feeding down to all the water contractors, Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Rohnert Park, and then all the way south to Novato and Marin Municipal. And the objective of this resiliency study is to look at everybody's system, to take off the blinders, if you will, and open it up and have a comprehensive study that just looks at who has local storage, who has the ability for groundwater storage, and look at this in a regional system and figure out how can we better operate our system, and during wet years, how can we better store water so that we have it more readily available during dry years. And I think a big focus moving forward in this study, in addition to additional stormwater retention, additional potential beneficial sharing of storage where we have it on surface water, is also just looking at groundwater, essentially aquifer storage and recovery projects. So we're hoping that this study that'll be completed over the next 18 months will set the groundwork for additional improvements that we can make to improve our resiliency, not only at the regional level, but also with NorthMarin Water District as well. So there's a lot of information, went through it pretty quickly. So, but I wanted to make sure we had some time for some questions and answers. So
Okay.
I'll turn it back over, Chris.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind closing out your screen share, then we can get everybody's screen.
Now I gotta
Yep. There we
stop
go.
sharing. There we go.
Good, thank you. So questions for Drew, if, yeah, Reggie? Unmute, please, yeah.
Drew, how does one sign up for that Water Smart notification?
You can go to our website.
NorthMarin Water?
Yeah, go to nmwd.com.
Okay.
And there's a big button right on the first page that says your water use, and if you click on that, it'll take you through. And if you have any problems working through the website, please call our number. It's, you know, we're more than happy to walk anybody through how to set up.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Drew? Let's see, Robert Marshall.
Yeah, not so much a question, but I want to give a little testimony for that system. It was probably a year ago, I got a call from somebody from NorthMarin Water say, we think you have a leak, go on this site and you can monitor it.
Yeah.
And I was able to go in and monitor it. I can now tell you exactly how many gallons my sprinklers are using in the backyard because of the time of day that they run, because you can go back and see it and it'll tell you. I mean, it's a phenomenal system. So I was able to then say, wow, I'm using 300 gallons of water on my back lawn. I think I need to roll that back a little bit. And I've been able to adjust it and bring down my water use just considerably by using that website, because it gives you real-time data. It's absolutely fantastic. So that's just my testimonial.
Let's see, Joy.
You know, was that a push notification, or how is it an alert in a way that, you know, gets our attention in a busy world? Or,
yes.
Okay.
So it depends how you can set it up to kind of control the messaging. So you can set it up to send an email only or a text only or vice versa. I mean, I have set it up for my house to do both, just in case I happen to have my phone and not looking at on a computer or something like that. And so you have some flexibility there in how you set it up.
Sonia, you had a question?
Could I, you know, add on? I'm really interested in the resiliency stuff. Are we going to get copies of that? Because I couldn't see that clearly. Will we be able to get copies of that of the presentation, I guess, because I want
Yeah,
to do that a little more.
it's not out yet in a report format because it's still about 18 months. I mean, but we will certainly have that information and bring some working drafts back to our board and make it available to the public at that time. And I can communicate with Chris so that he's aware of when that's available and can disseminate it.
Yeah, great.
And if you want to send an email to me, I can put you on our email list for agenda updates as well.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sonia?
Yes, Drew, thanks very much for the presentation. I want to echo what Robert said because I'm on that system of notification. It was immediate and the staff was very helpful. But I have a separate question. You've talked about the supply side. Now, what are some of the assumptions about the demand side? Well, the study that you're doing is just dealing with the supply side.
Yeah, well, the study that we're doing is just focusing on supply. I think demand,
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, I mean, we've been working on trying to reduce the demand, and since 2013, as I indicated, it's 20% lower, and it's about 30+% lower if you go back to the early 2000s. So the customer demands have been dropping. That being said, this year still, just with the dry year, we will still need to request reductions. We don't have the percentages yet. We should know within the next, definitely in April, based upon the agency's water supply. And that focus, again, will be on outdoor irrigation.
Thank you.
Dennis, you had a question?
Hello, Drew. Good presentation.
Hey, Dennis.
So several years ago, I noticed there was a big difference in the year-to-date rainfall in the Marin IJ versus the Novato Advanced. It could be 3 to 4 to 5 inches. And we actually had a meteorologist as a guest speaker at Rotary, and I asked her about that, and she said that there's a lot of microclimates in the area, and those were both accurate readings. They were just different parts of town. So when you're talking about year-to-date rainfall, where are you measuring from?
From Novato here. It's Stafford Lake.
It's Stafford Lake.
Right.
So if it's low at Stafford Lake, but it's more over on the eastern side of town or over in close to Terra Linda or the southern edge of town, that doesn't help because that doesn't flow into the lake.
Correct.
Got it.
And a lot of the Marin gauges that you see, those high numbers, those are all sort of based around Mount Tam. And Mount Tam just pulls a lot more water moisture out of the clouds than we get in Novato.
Penny, you had a question?
I was going to ask, because things could get desperate. Are we going to sell our water to the other part of Marin if things get desperate?
Well, we have an allocation methodology that all the water contractors, including Marin Municipal, work on during these times when diversions need to be reduced from the agency. And so there's a previously agreed upon method that comes up with how we work together as a group to reduce the water take from the agency. And so, this year we would not be, we actually Marin Municipal gets water from Sonoma County Water Agency through our pipes. We have a wheeling charge. Essentially, it's a use charge. But we're actually not selling them the water. That's the water that they're getting from the agency. They're paying us a fee to have it travel through our pipes. And whatever water that we purchase from the agency is being used for our customers.
Gloria, you had a question?
We both have a question, so Dawn.
Last question, because we're running short. So.
Go ahead. I just wanted to ask about the fact that you mentioned you're filling Stafford Lake at 5 million gallons a day or whatever. And that broadens the lake, and that would increase the evaporation as well. Is that measured in there?
That is measured in there. But Don, it's better. You're right. There's a certain percentage that we will lose to evaporation, but it's not a significant percentage. And if we did not backfill into Stafford Lake, we would be 100% reliant on Sonoma County Water Agency water. And it's important to have some diversification, if you will, of your portfolio. So that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Well, go ahead, Gloria.
Really quickly, is there any coordination with the fire department? I mean, they're worried about not having rain, and you're worried about not having rain. And God forbid we have fires here, that's going to drain our supply. Is there anything going on between your department and the fire department?
Well, we work very closely. So, one of the things that we will be doing, especially this year, is making sure that, we don't do any flushing of fire hydrants that would, which is important for water quality. We would defer that. We are working with the fire district to make sure that any training that they do, that they're delaying those activities that would maybe use potable water supply as part of that training right now in this dry year, and then they could pick it up more during a normal year. When it comes to an urban fire, I mean, we will still have water in our tanks for fighting those fires. Wildland fires, for the bulk, most of those fires are fought with aerial tankers and are not using our supply and stuff like that. So I think the important thing is we are coordinating to make sure that we acknowledge the conditions that we're under this year.
Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Drew, for the really informative and timely presentation. It's great to have advance notice of what's going to come down the pike. This is a really crucial year and likely the drought of record for Novato, unfortunately.